Hello and welcome back to Suspended Fanimation. I'm your host, Dennis Batholkus, and today I'm doing Counterpart, Season 2, Episode 7, No Strings Attached. Wow. I mean, it's kind of a quiet episode. I mean, it had some action in it and things like that, but there were two big breadcrumbs that were dropped in there. They're very subtle. If you missed it, I don't blame you. I watched this episode twice and caught it only after the second viewing, like long after the second viewing. I was in the shower actually thinking about it, and I was like, oh wait, holy shit. And I got it. Yeah. Some really good stuff. So before I start here, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the episode, go and watch it and come on back. This will be a video. You can comment down below in the comment section. And thank you to Viking Bitch for the paddle. Hey, Viking Bitch, speaking of which, there she is. Ooh, as I hit myself in the head with that thing. Man. So, yes, spoil away. That's what I'm going to do. So we started off exactly where we ended in episode 6 with Mira giving her terms on Juma's management box to management that she wants to close the crossing forever, but she wants to meet with management all in one place, all of them. And they are talking amongst themselves over their little management boxes to see if they should do it or not. And they agree to. So they said, we need to give the other side something. So these are the prime side that are talking about the alphas at this point. So, yeah. Hey, everybody in the chat. I will get to you guys once I'm done with the recap, too. So what they end up doing is they end up giving the Alpha Ambassador Psi passage back from the Prime world to the Alpha world. And they send him a message, and they say, this is for the 4th floor. And when he gets over there, he's met by Roland Fancher, which is, of course, Claire's father, if you will, in quotation marks, and Peter Quill's, of course, father-in-law. So we go back, and he basically meets him, at the entrance there, and Psi tells him that they have a message for management. So we flash back to 10 years ago, and we see Wesley Pierce, who we know as Ian, being brought to the site where his wife fell down the stairs and died. She basically ran from some guys that were just asking her some questions, supposedly, which we probably know that's not the truth. Something else more than likely was going on. He talked to her. He talked to his wife, and she knows about the other side. And that is pretty much what got her killed. So the guy one of the goons that was there that brought in Wesley says, this is your new name now. You're now Ian Shaw. Sorry about the name. He goes, but now you're going to be on the other side. The other side wanted some defectors to fill in their ranks. So now you're going to be working for them. And he says, let this be a lesson. Don't talk to anybody. Don't get involved with anybody. Anybody you get involved with is probably going to wind up dead. So that's a third breadcrumb too, by the way, for me on this. So this is the first that we see in this episode of a breadcrumb of Ian being put into the Prime strategy department and what's going on over there. So there's a reason for this, and the reason why I don't think we see the Ian Alpha as well, or not the Ian Alpha, excuse me, the Wesley Alpha. There's something going on here, and I'll get to it as I go through it. So we see Ian driving to the Echo base with the guys from management, the goon from management sitting next to him. The one who had met Emily really early on when she first got bumped up, and she was talking to management. So that's the guy that's sitting next to Ian. And Emily calls him and tells him where to meet her back by the loading dock, and that she has Howard with him. And he's like, okay, closes up the phone, and basically tells the management guy to fuck himself. Yeah. Yeah, it was very cold, Viking Bitch, telling him that you're now Ian and your wife's, over his wife's corpse. And he said it was going to happen sooner or later, just because of everything that had happened. So we see Quayle being debriefed about what happened with Mila Castile, his secretary. and they're basically running through the whole events about where they met, and basically the whole cover story is that he met her during his wedding, and that's when the affair started. Actually, I take that back. That's when the affair started, was during just after his wedding, and that she is Shadow. And yeah, he tells them the story about contacting Howard to get for Howard to get him a gun so he could confront her, and because he wanted to clean up his own mess. And yeah, it was just really kind of fucked up. And they basically, okay, we're going to let you go, but you're probably going to be under house arrest, kind of thing. They don't tell him that as of yet. So we see Naya praying in her office, and you can see that she's thinking about things as she's praying. She's going over stuff in her head, and things are not, 2 and 2 is not adding up to 4 at this point. And she realizes this, and there's something that she's missing. She just doesn't know what the hell it is. And she gets interrupted in her prayers by the woman coming in saying that they've gone through Mila's house, and everything kind of confirms what's been going on. So everything they found there, of course it has, because all the agents from the Prime side have come in from Indigo and have planted all the evidence that they need to plant. So Naya says, yeah, send Quayle home under house arrest, and until they can investigate Mila a little bit further at this point. Hey, everybody. I'll get to you guys in a little bit here. So, excuse me. We see Quayle come home, just pretty much drops his coat and is just mindlessly walking, and he's tired. He's been up for probably like 48 hours. He sits on Claire's bed there, which is unusual because, of course, he's always locked himself in the other room with the baby with Spencer. And then he's like, I wonder what it was. He goes, they lie, you never see your whole life flash before your eyes. He goes, it's just one memory of Spencer when she first remembered to smile, when she first smiled. When we were trying to get her to smile. And he goes through this whole thing, and he says, well, I wonder if she saw something like that before, she died. And then he tells her about Mila, that Mila died. And he goes, that's the woman that you planted. And then he goes through that. It was, she was a little too perfect, because the first day that she started, she gave him his cup of tea exactly the way he liked it, which made an impression on him. And he realized that was Claire's doing. And Claire, you can tell Claire is just feeling absolutely sorry for him at the same time. But yeah, it's pretty shitty, everything that she's done to him. And he wants to get out at this point, and she's like, no, you're too important to what's going on. And no one will tell him why he's important. That's the whole thing. Mila told him the same thing, that he's important. That's the reason why he needs to live. Now Claire has told him this as well. We don't know why he's important and why he's needed. There's something to do with the plan. We don't know what the hell this is. As much as Quayle is an asshole and really is kind of a dumb shit, yeah, he is being played very, very well. There's a lot of subtleties that are being played on his face, especially later on in the episode here, which I'll get to, and you can see there's stuff that's unspoken that goes across his face, and it's stuff that you're like, and you don't have to yell it at the screen because that's what he's thinking at this point. We see Howard Prime also in interrogation when Naya comes in to talk to him about Quayle and Mila, and he plays dumb, and he's like, "Oh, she was the mole. Okay, she's Shadow. All right, kind of thing." And Naya basically lays her cards out on the table there and just says, I see two truths. She's talking about, first she says, they told me that I would question about the other world once I took this job. And she goes, now I was thinking about it. There's two mechas, are there two gods, all that kind of stuff. And she goes, and then there's two truths. And she goes, I see two truths in you, Howard. One is that I know that you were just kind of brought into this. And she goes, the other one, I don't know what it is. And she goes, and I want to trust you, but I can't. And she basically lays everything out on the table right there. And Howard Prime is not an idiot at this point. I mean, sure, he's a blunt instrument, but he is basically, he's freaking out at this point. You can tell he's freaking out because Naya is closing in on him. And she says, oh yeah, and by the way, we've called in your wife. And after we're done with her, you guys can go home, but you're going to be under guard. because we have a feeling that everything's not done yet, and they're going to be coming after you guys as well. And yeah, it's just very, 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 very well written subtleties that are in this show. I mean, damn. So we see Quail Prime dragging another TV over to his main TV so he can watch both games simultaneously and see all the differences that he missed. This is in the meantime while Emily Prime and Howard Alpha are in the carnage that is Echo Prison with all the dead bodies. And they're trying to, she goes, I wasn't trying to find you. She goes, I was looking for Indigo. I was following, excuse me. Yeah, no, I just blanked on it. He says, yeah, I was trying to follow Indigo over here. And yeah, it's really kind of kind of a pissy thing that she wasn't looking for him. And we see that she's trying to find Mira at this point. So Howard comes to realization. He goes, do you know who that guy is? And he points to the dead guy on the floor. And she goes, oh yeah, that was the guy that she ended up following over to Mira's location. And she goes, yeah, he works for Mira. And he goes, oh, I see what happened. He made me take some pills. He said immunization pills before I left. I think I might be the reason why she found this place. And he goes, and then he realizes that he's just been a pawn all this time. And he's really, kind of sinking into that realization that he's just been a pawn all this time, and he's kind of getting pissed off. And he ends up taking her over to Yannick's office because they're going to investigate a little bit further. Yeah, Tweedle, it does look like they might end up this story this season. It looks like they're wrapping up this thing. Oh, man. So Claire, we see cleaning up the place, and she finds her phone and sees that there's a voicemail left from Peter and a missed call. That was when she was screwing Spencer, and Peter ended up calling her, telling her that he loved her and Spencer. Spencer the baby, not Spencer the guy. Yeah. It gets a little confusing there at that point. Viking bitch, that reality, when it sinks in, I'm wondering if it's going to affect him at this point and make Howard Alpha turn, or if he's actually going to stay to his convictions and still be the guy that he is, because he doesn't seem, and I'm going to get to that in a little bit. I have a feeling that he's going to end up going the way of Howard Prime, and Howard Prime is going to end up going the way of Howard Alpha. And that's what's going on, is they're kind of switching positions, if you will. So Roland shows up. He knocks on the door very hurriedly and says, where is he? And goes and wakes up Quail and says, get your clothes on, get some new fresh clothes on. They want us back in the office. And he goes outside, and basically he just rips into Quail and says, how could you do this? How long he's questioning Claire as well. How long have you known about this? That explains the car crash. This all comes a little bit better into light at this point. And then he tells Claire, I thought I raised you to be stronger. And you see Quail at this point, when Roland is ripping into Quail, he looks over at Claire and, do something. And Claire doesn't do anything at all until Roland says, I thought I raised you to be stronger. And she goes, whoa, wait a minute. You raised me? And at this point, I thought she was going to blow her cover completely. But no, she just rips into him. She goes, I'm not that little girl on the ski trip that likes to wear pink and read romance novels. She goes, I built this life, and you have no say over it whatsoever. And she basically just emasculates him. She cuts off his balls right there in front of everybody and says, yeah, get the fuck out, essentially. And they leave. I get in the car, and in the car, Roland basically tells Peter, he goes, do you know how everything that you do reflects back on me? And it's basically all about his ego. He is really lost, is not seeing the forest for the trees. Let's just say that much. He is very, very focused on himself and what others perceive of him, and not on really what the fuck is going on. Yeah. It's exactly. He's worried about how it looks for him and not for and not about his own daughter. And he says that Claire, he says, "You're going to leave Claire." He goes, "She used to laugh. She doesn't laugh anymore. She's not herself anymore. And maybe once she's away from you, she'll learn to laugh again," and all this kind of stuff. And you could tell all this time Peter is just chomping at the bit to tell him that Claire is not his Claire, that it's the prime Claire that has killed his daughter and taken her place. And you could see this just playing over his face the entire time. And that's good acting right there. And at no point did I want to yell at the screen and tell him, because you could see it on his face, the conflict that he just really wanted to say. He wanted to tell him and basically kind of rub it in his face, but at the same time knew that if he told him, all kinds of matter of shit are going to drop. It's going to be bigger than what's happening now. Yeah. Exactly, Stanley. This show is not for everyone. If you don't pay attention, you get lost. This is not a casual show. This is not, an Orville or Star Trek, Discovery or anything like that, where you can just, eat whatever the thing that they're feeding you and just let it go, or watch it while you are, while you're doing dishes or vacuuming or taking care of the kids or doing calculus. Yeah, it's not something you can have on in the background. It is you have to pay attention to this show. I hate to say it, but you really do. And it's not denigrating anybody who doesn't like the show or anything like that. I'm just saying that it really is not for everybody. So Emily Alpha comes back into comes into the office to view Mila's body and to see if she's Shadow, and she doesn't have a memory of her, really. She's like, I don't know. She had dark hair. It could be Shadow. It could be her. I don't know. Who did she tell me a little bit more about her? And so she's told that she's worked for Quayle, and she goes, oh, that makes sense, because most of the communique stuff that we got came directly from Quayle's desk, so it could definitely be her. And she's not really sure about it. And Naya basically says, okay, well, they're going to have her guarded from this point on, because she doesn't think that it's over with, and that, her life could be in danger. No, Stanley, I didn't mean it as an insult either. So I totally get you. Yeah. So, but I totally agree with you. It isn't for everybody. And again, everyone has different tastes in shows. That's just goes with human nature. Yeah, I didn't take it as one either, as Mork says. We see Spencer calls up Claire and has her meet him by a train station in an hour, and he's going to pick her up, and he does. And he takes her over to Mila's storage locker. So she has a storage locker full of crap that's registered in her name. It's only a matter of time before the company finds it. And then they're unloading everything. And she finds out that it's her old friends. All her old friends are all in the same cell. And he basically tells her that Claire needs to be ready for what comes next, but he doesn't tell her what it is. And this is something that is kind of dangled out there, yeah, it's I don't know exactly what it is that's coming up, but we know those boxes are temperature controlled. If you take a look in the background there, they all have little temperature gauges that say 21.3 degrees Fahrenheit. It's not Celsius. So it's being kept, and I think it was minus 21, if I'm not mistaken, minus 21 degrees Fahrenheit. So whatever it is needs to be kept cold, and I'm thinking it's their virus, their version of the virus, because they had a lot of them, a lot of cases. So, Stormy Scott, have you been using my laptop to spy on me again? Just a little bit. Been kind of boring though, really. You got to step things up a little bit. Wear some outfits. Remember the little schoolboy one? Yeah, that's the one. So Howard Alpha ends up showing Emily Prime Yannick's office, and they're going through it, and they're looking at the photos, and they find the photos of the scientists that are there. And then they also see the photo of Mira, a very young Mira with Yannick. And she goes, oh, she's his daughter. And then Emily's like, but that's not the reason why she's here. There's no reason why she came in here to break out Daddy. There's another reason why she's here. And then she starts putting two and two together about the scientists and saying that, what if this is management? That makes sense why no one ever sees their faces, because they don't want to be known as to who they are. And she starts putting this together and is slowly piecing things together at this point. And Ian calls up, and basically Howard at this point is like, so this whole thing's just a family squabble from the fourth floor. He's getting pissed at this point because realizing how it's just all fucking petty, everything that's going on, and that he's in the middle of it as a pawn, and he's pissed about that. And that's why I'm saying he's going to turn into the Howard Prime badass. Because remember, Yannick, excuse me, was also giving him injections to make him physically stronger and change him into Howard Prime. So we don't know what those injections involved. Excuse me. Yeah, I don't know, Pen Farm Girl. They are making it too obvious it's the virus, but then they're also kind of obscuring it as well. So who knows what it is? Vodka. Yeah, no, it's not vodka. It's turpentine. And then Ian calls up and says that he's coming, he's getting closer. And Emily says, I'm sorry, it's Ian. And of course, Howard says, I'm not going back. He goes, I'm not being anybody's prisoner anymore. He goes, I'm on my own. She's like, I understand. Yeah. And so we see Howard Prime ends up pulling Quail aside as Quail is walking to his office and says, oh, Mr. Quail, glad to see you're back. Can we talk for a second? And then he goes, shit is going down. I need to talk to your wife to find out what her fucking people are doing. And Quail just kind of plays it off. He's like, okay, I understand. He goes, oh, you need something from me, is what he says. And yeah, it just, man, he's just playing a dickhead at this point. And man, I really don't know what to say about Quail, what's happening at this point. And he even, takes a little snipe at Howard and calls him an old man. Maybe you need to go get some rest, old man, kind of thing. So Howard, you could tell, is pissed at this point, Howard Prime, and he's leaving the office because he's got the Howard Prime walk. If you notice, there's two different walks. Howard Alpha kind of walks slunched over a little bit and very slow and methodical and doesn't swagger, whereas Prime actually swaggers and walks out confidently, head held high, things like that. And he dropped his guard for, because he was pissed at Quail, and he's doing the swagger and head held high and walking out until he sees Emily. Emily's being released, and they're being put in the same car and said, these men will take you to your house and they'll stay with you. And he's like, shit. Yeah. He's pretty pissed at this point. So they get back to the house. He sees the guys down below. And he goes, that's a lot of coffee. He goes, how long before they come knocking on our door to use the bathroom? He's kind of joking around. And this is where we get our second little breadcrumb, because he tries to push Emily. He goes, did you tell them about your contact that you met? And she brushes him off. She's like, that's not important. What is important is this file. And she pulls out a file of all the people that were killed in strategy during the big coup that would happen there, the event. All the people that were killed were all Emily's people. Everyone that she knew, everyone that she trusted. Remember how we were talking about how they were all targeted? That's the reason why they were targeted. They were everyone that Emily knew. There you go. And it was a little tiny breadcrumb. It was just dropped. It took me 2 times, and then also just thinking about it later on, what happened. And because she says to Howard, you're the only one left that I can trust. So yeah, so it's the very, they've killed all of her people, everyone that she trusts at this point, which is leading me to believe to the suspicion that Emily Alpha is the linchpin, is the final key to whatever this is. And she is actually working with she's working with Indigo at this point. For whatever reason, I don't know what it is, but she is the key. And they had to cut all of her ties. That was the reason why Indigo did this, is they went over and killed all of her people because they could be used against her, leverage against her, to finding out and stopping her before they can carry out their plan. She is the last, but she has no memory of it at this point because of what happened. There you go. So yeah, big fucking breadcrumb at that point. Remember that for, we only have 3 episodes left after this. So yeah, very, very interesting. So Claire and Spencer are driving in the car, and they've got their, vials of crap in the back there. And she goes, "You didn't need me for this." And he goes, "Well," he goes, "as Mira said, it's important to see what you were fighting for, that we're all together in this, even if we're not seeing, each other." And she's starting to realize that he is deep into the cause, if you will. And she is getting away from the cause. And she says, she tells him about the message that she heard about Pope having Mira kill her family. And he goes, "So?" He goes, "A lot of people's parents died during the virus." And she goes, "Yeah, but I was the kid of those, those parents that got killed." You got to remember exactly. Stanley Tweedle. Oh man. But he even pulls over the car at one point, trying to talk some sense into her about what's going on. And you could tell Claire puts on the mask all of a sudden, so she doesn't give herself away, and says, "Yes, you're right. I agree with you," kind of thing. And yeah, let me, Dennis, when you're done with the review, I'll put my headset back on. Yeah, so it's man, you could see, like I said, the layers of acting in this are the writing's good, but the acting is just as good as the writing. If you don't have both working in harmony, and also the directing as well, and the editing, if you don't have everything firing on all cylinders, you have a crappy show. And you have to have a well put together show for this in order to have things work out as they do. Yeah, exactly, Viking Bitch. Claire may be a lot of things, but dumb is not one of them. Exactly. She knows when to keep her mouth shut and when to put on a facade, and a really good facade. And he drops her back off at the station, kisses her out in full view of everyone. And I'm wondering at this point, isn't she being put under surveillance because she is Quayle's wife at this, are these, and I realize that it's not a government agency that is doing this, but it's a scientific agency, if you will. So they didn't have as many guards as they would if it was a government agency following all this. But yeah, you would think she would have been followed, because he kisses her straight out in the open, and he goes, "Don't worry, we'll be together. Once this is over with, everything will be good." And then she says to him, "And then what?" Which leaves him with a puzzled look on her face, and she walks away from him. And I was like, wow, that's cold. But that was actually really well done at the same time. And so we see her standing on the platform, and she finally ends up listening to the message that Peter left. And I love you hear the whole thing where he says, "Tell Spencer that I love her." And then you hear the guy in the background says, "Please stick to the script." And so she realizes that everything he said was, all set up, and that he really did have a heartfelt, "I love you" to her in that. And she realizes at this point she may have made a mistake by, hooking up with Spencer. Yeah, and she probably realized that she loves Peter at this point too. So yeah, so we have Quayle walking into the meeting with Roland, Cy, Naya, and everybody else, and they're talking about this meeting that's going to happen with management, and how the other side basically said they want all management to meet in a location on the other side, so in the Prime universe at this point. And Naya stops and goes, "Why is Peter here at this meeting?" And Roland says, "Because he's director of strategy." She goes, "Well, he's been compromised. He shouldn't be here, especially for this high level of a meeting." And Roland's like, "Maybe we should take this offline." She goes, No. You are basing loyalty on in front of everything else. And that's not the case. She goes, "We know he's been screwed once before. He could do it to us again. This is a high level meeting. He shouldn't be here." And she basically rips into him, saying that, loyalty is the problem in the institution. And Roland, of course, tries to sidebar it again, and then she brings up that Quayle is is his son-in-law, and that's the reason why he's blind to it. And she just makes it personal at this point. And Roland tries to interject, and she's like, "No, wait a minute." She says, this guy's blind to everyone that was close to him, and he tried to protect himself and his status. And Quayle realizes that she's right, and he goes, she is right. She goes, I did try to protect myself. I did try to protect my status. I tried taking care of my own mess. He goes, I shouldn't be here. And he resigns. And I was like, fuck, that was actually pretty ballsy right there, man. Yeah, I did love Betty Grable, Naya, just calling out everybody in that scene. And I was like, fuck. Yeah, she did a really good job of that. And we could see again how Roland is very short-sighted, and he's a shitty manager is really what he is. He's middle management is what he is. And we can see where the failings are. We're starting to see the cracks in this whole system that was put into place by management long ago, and how everything that was put into place was done haphazardly. It wasn't thought out well. It wasn't a well thought out experiment, as they say. Well, there's your problem right there. So he resigns. So we go back to Emily Prime and Howard, and they're meeting Ian. And of course, two cars pull up, and she's like, what the fuck? And they're pulling up on either side of them. And she sees the guy from management, the goon, and two other goons from management come out on the other side. And she pulls out her gun and says, what the hell is this? And they're like, oh, put your gun down. And Ian's trying to say, I'm sorry. This is the way it's got to be. And Howard steps in front of Emily and goes, nope, I'm not going to be anyone's prisoner anymore. You got to get the hell out. And the management goon says, you don't understand. He goes, no one cares about you, Howard. You're useless. We could shoot you and no one would give a shit. And Emily looks over at Ian and kind of gives him a little head bob. And he pulls out his gun and puts it on the management guy. And they're still yelling, everyone to put your gun down. That's when gunfire ensues. Emily gets shot in the back and gets knocked down, but she's got a bulletproof vest on. Actually, in the chest, excuse me. And she gets the wind knocked out of her. She's trying to get to her gun. We see Ian had shot the management guy, and they're struggling for the guns, and she had shot the two other management goons. She's a damn good shot, I can say that much. And she reaches her gun, shoots the one guy that she had wounded, and Ian is struggling with the last management dude on top of him as shoots them, kills him, and they drive away. So Howard and Emily both get in their other car and drive off, and leaving Ian with the dead bodies of the management goons. And that was the other thing too, is that Emily had said, does management think I know too much? Is that the reason why they want to bring me in? Because I know too much about this stuff, about them? And no one will answer her. No one will give her a straight answer at this point. And that's the reason why gunfire started. Because more than likely that was the case. Yeah, it's... and we find out as they're driving away that Howard has been shot. He's been shot in the side. But yeah, it's... Man, seeing Howard Alpha and Emily Prime together is actually working out. They're actually my go-to team at this point. So, because they're both in the dark, they're both finding stuff out as it comes along, and you can tell they're the two people that have been left out of everything, whereas Howard Prime and Emily Alpha are the ones that started all this shit to begin with. So there's your dichotomy, if you will, between the two worlds. So yeah, it's the Howard Prime had left out Emily Prime out of what was going on really, and Emily Alpha left Howard Alpha out of what was going on really for everything else in her world, spy-wise. So yeah, it's a very interesting dynamic that's been going on. So we see Howard Prime saying that he's going out for groceries. He goes, unless one of you guys wants to drive me, he goes, I'm going to walk. And so out of the 4 guards, 2 of them split off to go and follow Howard, and he loses them fairly easily in the subway, takes off. In the meantime, Quayle comes home, tells Claire that he quit his job, She's like, what the fuck did you do that for? Now you put targets on both of our backs. And he goes, oh, and Howard's coming over too. So we need to leave now. He goes, I'm taking Spencer with me. He goes, I never made you choose between your cause or me. He goes, because I knew what was going to win out. He goes, but I'm taking Spencer with me, and I'd like to have my whole family together. And she goes, what about the guards out in front? He goes, well, we can use the potion that I said potion. Yeah, I know. We can use the compound that Lambert gave us to knock out, the guards, basically kill the guards at this point. And he's loading up stuff into a bag, and we come back to Howard showing up outside the Quails to find dead guards in the car, and he goes into the house and finds that everyone's gone. And finally, we see the Quails pulling up to the house, the Indigo house, but only on the Alpha side, which has ivy growing over it. It's boarded up. And he says, what is this place? And she goes, this is where I grew up, on the other side. And she goes, we'll be safe here. And that's where we leave on the episode. Yeah. I mean, holy shitballs. Emily Prime is, like I said, Emily Prime and Howard Alpha are unaware of what the hell's going on. I'm pretty sure that Emily Alpha is the linchpin and everything here. She is working with Indigo, and she is the one that is going to be once she gets her memory back, then I'm pretty sure she's getting her memory back next episode. Shit is going to go down. Penn Farm Girl says, how did Crazy Quail get the tapes back? No, they weren't thrown out. They were just they were tossed underneath some clothing. It was actually thrown in the laundry basket, Penn Farm Girl. So he found them. He's the kind that would obsess and go through everything to go and find those tapes again. So I'm sure that's what he did. Yeah, Quail Prime just went through and found the tapes that way. Stanley Tweedle says, did you forget the management scene, or did I blink? You mean at the very beginning, the management scene, or the management? Which one are you talking about, Stanley? Because there was no, other than the very beginning, and then also when the management goons showed up and had the firefight. There was no very end management scene. All that was there was the end credits, and then we went to, and I watched it twice, so there wasn't anything about management. The old guys discussing the meeting, I didn't see anything like that on there, Stanley. I don't know what you're talking about. Maybe you saw the Prime Universe version. Yeah, that was the very beginning. They were discussing the meeting. They were discussing what Mira had said. And that was at the very beginning, where they're all on their headphones and they're talking about meeting for the first time in years, and that they needed to give them something. Yeah, so that was at the very, very beginning. Yeah, Penn Farm Girl, that was laundry. We saw that, you could see him just kind of push it underneath. It was some clothing that was in the laundry basket, and he threw it in there. But let me see what else you guys have to say. I'm going to scroll up a little bit. A Viking bitch says, my first question was, are they going to let him quit, though? Yeah, that was the other. Well, again, they are not a government agency, so they don't have any of this stuff in place to watch somebody, or even though they look like they're a government agency, there are some big gaping holes. And like I said, we're starting to see the cracks in their infrastructure, because they thought like scientists, not like the government, or the government, like a government intelligence agency or anything like that. So there are some big gaping holes within their infrastructure there. Oh, there's a famous German comedian in that scene. Oh, okay. I didn't know. Yeah. No, you kind of confused me there too. I mean, wow. They can't kill him, VB. Maybe that's where the Yannick treatments play in. Yeah. See, again, with Yannick and his injections, what the fuck were in those injections? And what have the Prime side been working on, all this time? I really don't know what the hell's, what to expect. That's the good thing about this, is it's not telegraphed. We're getting breadcrumbs here and there, and the show's complaining enough to bring you in and keep you riveted to find out what's happening next, but they're not flat out telegraphing everything that's happening in the show. And that's what's good about it. So, and yes, it isn't for everybody. It really isn't. But at the same time, it's the best show that's out there right now. Honestly, it is the best show out there. Pen Farm Girl says, watch multiple times or have Dennis explain what we missed, didn't understand. That works too. I don't catch everything, quite honestly. And my brain sometimes, runs over these things when I'm not, really aware of it. And then it pops up in my head. I'm like, holy shit, that's right. Yeah. And I pretty much think that Justin Marks and I share some weird, every now and then I get a stray signal from him about what's happening in the show. And it's like, ding. Yeah, it does hit me like that. Vikingvich says it's true, though. You cannot even look away from the screen for a second or you miss something. A lot of people don't want to invest that kind of attention in a show. It's true. A lot of people just want to watch their TV and have them tell their stories about stuff that they don't need to pay any attention to, unless it's the Kardashians or, the Bachelorette or something like that. No, my subconscious sometimes is, I think it takes over sometimes at night when I'm not aware of it. I don't know if things have been moved around, but maybe. I'm pretty sure my subconscious would put things back the way they were, so I wouldn't be aware of it. Slurmy Scott says, Senile has a good side. You can rewatch shows and enjoy them like the first time. Viking Bitch says, this is the only show that will make me swear over how little information we're getting. And at the same time, I can't wait for the next one. Yeah. Mork says Dennis Subconscious is Dennis Alpha. I don't know. It might be the Dennis Prime, honestly. It probably is. As I've always said at work, I said, yeah, past me left it for future me to worry about. That motherfucker. Because it does happen more often than not, is that past me goes, oh, that's a problem for future me. Future me can deal with that. And then future me, makes a lot of disparaging comments about past me. Yeah, that's pretty much where I got it from, Morks. It is from Homer Simpson, yes. Past Homer, future Homer, exactly. Heather Graham says, if Emily Alpha was somebody who initially was involved in spearheading Indigo, it probably became hijacked at some point by the likes of Mira. I don't think so. I think that the reason why we haven't seen Mira and Emily Alpha together yet is that they know each other and they are working together. Excuse me. Filthy News says, I'll watch this episode later. All right, man. I know people have a lot going on. So yeah, if you like what you see, make sure you hit the subscribe button or the like button. And if you don't like what you see, hit the dislike button too. Either way. Also, if you want to see any more videos or know when my videos are coming up, hit the little bell. That'll be the notification there. And go through my other video lists that I have. I'm doing, God, what am I doing right now? I'm covering The Passage. I'm covering Project Blue Book. I'm covering Deadly Class. I'm covering Gotham. I'm covering Future Man. And on Saturdays, I do a Saturday morning blast off, which is all the news of the week from the different genre sites and entertainment news in general, and basically anything else everyone wants to talk about genre-wise. So lots of fun. Stanley Tweedle said, I just said that to coworker last week. Let future me worry about that. Yeah. Oh, you just got the notification, Slurmy? That's great. Yeah, YouTube's been doing some weird crap lately. Kind of like if you were with me yesterday on my stream where it just cut off the stream right in the middle of it. And yeah, I don't know if it was my connection or if it was YouTube or what it was, but yeah, right in the middle of the live stream, I had to restart a new stream. So yeah, it was lots of fun. Sabotage could be, but Pen Farm Girl says computer just buffered for almost 2 full minutes. Dang, I think I was trying to connect to the other side. You might have been. Yeah. Uh, Filthy, yeah, what ends up happening sometimes with that when you decrease in subs is it's YouTube. They're going through, if people haven't stopped by your channel in a while, they will remove those subs. That's what happens. And that's why the stream stops. Yes, it's because of prostate problems. It does happen sometimes like that. So what's happening? If you like what you see, again, hit the subscribe button up here. If you're still undecided, you're going to see some videos up here of mine that match your likes and preferences. Take a look at one of those, see if it floats your boat. If not, there are other fish out there in the sea. Yes, I am close to 100 subs. I am at 98 subs. At 100 subs, I become a real channel. I get a URL. So definitely. Heather Graham says maybe anything is possible. Emily Alpha and Mira being partners seems an obvious guess for me. This show twists. Plus, why take photos of the very people she was working with? That's a good question. I mean, again, we won't know. Like I said, there's probably going to be a good size reveal next episode, since we're only 3 episodes left in the season. And then, of course, we're going to have all hell break loose in the last 2 episodes, what I'm pretty much sure of at this point. So again, hit the subscribe button. Take a look at the videos over here. I'm going to let you guys go for the day. Don't let the door hit your ass on the way out. Otherwise, you may end up finding yourself facing down management goons.